So it's time to install OpenJDK 18 and Geany as the IDE or Integrated Development Environment. First off, why are we using 18 for a version of Java? Hey, why not? It's the latest version. There are like 19 and 20 versions are waiting in the wings. 20 is, probably going to be fantastic when it's out there. But 18 is good. It's also offering backward compatibility with pretty much all previous versions. The most common versions of Java are 1.8. Version 11, I think, is very common. And probably 17, but that was before 18 came up. But beside the point, we're going to be installing that. So let me get the browser running here. And why Geany? Why Geany as an IDE? It's probably one of the most flexible integrated development environments out there, and also at the same time being ridiculously small and simple. It's not Visual Studio Code, it's not IntelliJ, it's not those massively large integrated development environments. Geany is wonderful, it's small, it's across operating systems. It's just great, and it supports multiple different program formats or source code formats and text file formats. So let's just get right into it. So the first thing to do is install Java, and technically we're not really installing it. We're really just downloading it, putting it into a particular spot, and then, if you will, telling Windows it's there. That's about it. Unlike other programs like Geany, for example, where it is a proper installation, it's adding programs into Windows, the JDK is just sort of sitting there. It's very, very laid back, very chill. So let's do that right off the bat. So here's the place to download OpenJDK version 18. You can, if you want, to download the Oracle version of Java 18. I think in licensing, all that complexity now, I think it's still free now, as some previous versions were not free. But OpenJDK seems to be the most popular in terms of, let's run this everywhere. Let's have our developers use it. Let's have schools use it. Let's have corporate businesses use it. Nobody really pays a fee. And yeah, so let's download it. This video is showing how to use it in Windows, so we're going to download the x64. There is no 32-bit version of this any longer, and I don't know if anybody's running, for example, Windows XP or something like that. So the 64-bit version is fine. So we just click it, and in my case, Firefox is coming up, and it wants to save it. It's going to put it into the Downloads folder, and I don't want to waste time actually doing a download. I've already grabbed it. If you're using Chrome or Edge, it's probably going to put it into your Downloads folder as well. So let's assume that's gone ahead and downloaded. So also let's download Geany as well. Before we can do an install, we have to grab it. So here's the Geany page, so geany.org, and we'll grab the installer for it. So again, 64-bit, there's really no 32-bit version, and we're going to download two separate things. One is the Geany main module, and then plugins. We're going to download a basic set of plugins. And I think this is probably either the initial plugins that came with Geany, or maybe the most common ones, the most popular ones. But really, there are many other plugins, and people are writing their own third-party plugins for Geany as well. So you could actually go to the plugins page and see if there's more, or write your own if you ever want to. But there's some useful little plugins. We don't have to install all of them, but we can pick and choose which ones we want. So again, you just click on the downloader, and I've already downloaded them, but just to show you, you just click on both the main module and also the plugins for the Windows version. So we assume that we've got those plugged in. So they've already been downloaded, and they're sitting in our downloads folder. There they are. So we've got the OpenJDK, which is Java itself. It's got the Java compiler and the virtual machine, or the Java runtime environment. Those are the same name for the same thing. We've also got our two Geany downloads. So first things to do is get Java installed. So we'll just double click on the zip. Actually, not double click. Let me do it the way that doesn't assume you have WinRAR or WinZip installed. So we'll right-click on it and then click Extract All. So this is a built-in to Windows feature of extracting from zip files. So there it'll create a folder underneath the Downloads folder, which we're currently at. I don't want the files to show up. I don't want another window to show up. So I've turned off Show Extracted with Complete. There's no check mark for there, so I've turned off the check mark. So we'll click Extract, and we will wait for the progress meter to finish doing its thing. There are a number of files within Windows, and it's slowly getting there. We'll wait. Awesome. So there's the brand new folder that got created. So if we go into it, you'll see that there's a JDK-18 and so on subfolder. This is the folder that actually has Java within it. So if we double click on that, you could see the bin, conf, these all make up the Java environment, both the Java compilation and the Java virtual machine or Java runtime environment. It's all sitting in there. So what we're going to do is copy this one and move it somewhere that's not hidden 5 levels deep in our Downloads folder. On my computer here, I've created a new folder, a new directory called Java VM right off my C drive. It's very convenient. It's right off the C drive, so it's just C:\\. It's a very short name. And it's a very simple place for me to find it if I ever need to reference it. Some computers, depending on your computer or your laptop, may have the C drive locked down. It might require you to click on an additional window in order to create another folder. So for me, I would just go ahead and create folder, and I created my JVM. Or you might not be permitted at all to create one. You can put it anywhere. You can put it in your Documents folder. I would not recommend leaving it in Downloads, though. Downloads is supposed to be a temporary repository for downloading files, doing something with them, and then deleting them. So nothing in Downloads should be permanent. So create that folder where you want. You can create it in Documents if you wanted, for example. You see I've created another one there that we'll see in just a moment. So in my Java VM on the C drive, that's where I'm going to put. I go back to my Downloads, go back to the folder we just created. I'm going to right-click on this. Going to copy it. I could cut it if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave that one there just in case I mess up. And I want to have it already extracted so I don't have to wait for the extraction again. So we'll go back to the C drive, and we've got JVM, and we will then paste that one right in there. Awesome. So a quick check to see what we've actually got in here. There's a number of other folders. I don't need to go into all of them, but the one I'd want to look at is the bin folder. That stands for binary. So these are the executable parts of the Java environment. So if we scroll down, we can see that there's a java.exe. So this actually is the runtime environment. It is the Java virtual machine. So when you run a Java program, this is the executable that's actually getting called. There's another one here called Java-C. So this is the Java compiler. It takes your source code, .java files, and it puts them and creates the .class files, or the executables, which then run in the Java virtual machine. So those are the two main ones, but you can see there's a lot of files in here. Java is not just a simple program. You've got graphical environments, you've got network communication. It's all sitting in here. But it's all sitting underneath that folder. So you could, if you wanted to, have different versions of Java. You could have a Java 1.8, also called Java 8. You could have a Java 11, a Java 13. You can have different versions of Java. And OpenJDK is nice because it doesn't install itself in Windows. It's not really part of Windows. You can manipulate this really easily. You can see we just dropped it right in there. But we do have to tell Windows that it is there, that it is present. So there's two things that we need to do. So I'm going to minimize this for the moment. We still have to install Geany, so I'll be right back to that. But I'm going to go into my settings and change some environment variables. So let's try, how about variables? Let's try variables. There we go. So this is just to tell any program that's requiring Java where it is. So we just have to put a couple of variable settings in Windows so that programs can ask Windows as the operating system where Java is located. So there's two sections here. The top part is called the user variables. So you, as a user, you're logged into this computer, you have your own particular set of variables. So every user would have their own. So you can customize how Windows looks for you and also works. But on the bottom are the system variables. These variables apply to any user that logs in. And this is exactly what we want for Java. We want it available for everybody in whatever context. So there's two things we need to do. First is we're going to add a variable called Java_home. So this is just describing to any program that's going to reference Java, where is it? What is the folder path? What's the directory path? So we're going to click on Browse Directory and go find it. Where is it? It's exactly where I put it, inside the Java VM folder. So you'll notice there it is, JDK-18 and so on, with all the folders beneath it. We don't want to click on any folder beneath it. We just want it to say JDK18, and that's exactly what it says down here in folder. We'll click OK, and there's our path. So as far as Java Home is concerned, everything that is JDK18 is underneath this folder, and that's all we needed to do. And there's our folder right there, created all nice. The second thing we need to do is go down here to Path and add, so we want to edit, and add a new path to where the Java programs are. And you remember we went into the bin directory, or the bin folder, which is the binary, the executables. Well, we have to tell Windows that's where those executables are located. So we'll just add those. So we'll just click on Browse and go look for them exactly in the same spot. But in this case, instead of just doing the JDK18, we want to go one level deeper and click on bin. So that's the folder that actually has the binary executables. So there we go. And now we've set up our Java Home. So any program that wants to know where Java is located, there it can look at the Java Home variable. And also, if it wants to execute the Java compiler, the Java virtual machine, there we go. We can look in the path. And that's all we needed to do. To do a quick check, let's open up a command window, so CMD, so a command prompt window. Doesn't matter where we are, we can just type Java-version, and it should tell us, there we go, version 18. When we set up in the path where Java is located, now we can type Java and also Java-C, so the compiler, anywhere in the command prompt. We don't have to be in that specific bin directory or bin folder. We can type them anywhere. And this is exactly what Geany needs in order to compile and run programs as well. So we just satisfied all the requirements for setting up Java on a computer. And as I said, you can have multiple versions, and the versions aren't limited to only have one. You can really only have one active at a time, but that doesn't mean anything right now. As you get more familiar with Java, that requirement will probably make more sense. But now we want to set up Geany. So let's go over to our downloads folder, and we're going to run both of these installers in sequence. So first we'll get the main module, and then we'll install the plugins. So we'll just double click on Geany, and the setup will get started in a moment. And we'll just click on next. We've gone through and read the agreement. I hope everybody took the time to read the agreement. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of options here. Well, Geany is not just a Java environment. It's a C, C++, Python, Ruby, Rust, HTML. You name a language, it probably handles it. I think it understands 50 or more different file formats. And file formats, not just programming languages like Java or Python, but just simple text files as well. There's XML or HTML, which are web-based. They're not languages, but they're file formats, and Geany understands them. So it's a very powerful language. So in this case, just take next. Just take them all. and it's going to install it into the program files Geany. Yeah, that sounds fine to me. And I like to add things into start menus and have all those nice little features that Windows asks for. So we'll just wait for the progress bar to copy a ridiculous amount of files. And don't forget, we have to install the plugins as well. Some plugins are getting installed here with the Geany main module, but I think they're the initial, like the first version of the plugins. So we want to make sure it's not going to run Geany right away. We want to make sure that we install this set of plugins. And not much here, but just install everything that's required for those plugins to run. All right, well, at this point, as far as you're concerned, everything's ready to go. Everything is set up. Java's set up. We just did a quick check there. We checked the Java virtual machine, the Java compiler. They're both version 18. So let's just double click on Geany, get started. So the first thing we'll do is just do a quick overview of the things that we need to do to set this up. So this is to make sure that Geany is set up in a way that makes sense to you as a programmer, or at least for a Java programmer. So let's see, I have my own little notes because I can't forget them. So the first thing, let's go into Edit Preferences. And a lot of these settings are exactly how they should be. Some programmers, especially in their IDE, like to do a confirm exit just to make sure they don't accidentally hit the X on the main window and everything shuts down or everything closes. But there is a check that Geany will make if you haven't saved a file as well. So you can turn this feature on, this confirm exit, if you want. I leave it up to you. For me, it sometimes gets in the way. There are a number of other settings to do, but the key ones here are in the editor and then indentation. So with most programming languages, not everything starts on the left column and then just works right. Not all statements line up nicely like that. There's an indenting structure. So as pieces of code are within other modules or other pieces of code, they get indented further to the right. And you either do the indentation with a tab or a space. There's a big argument on the program community whether tabs or spaces are useful. But I must say that if you use spaces, nobody will complain. If you use tabs, people start complaining. So clearly spaces are the default. Why Geany sets them to tabs, I really don't know. Whoever developed Geany wanted to set it to tabs. But for Java, spaces are the best, and the width is either 4 or 5 spaces. So 2 is a little too, 1 is definitely not right. 2 is way too small. 3 is sometimes acceptable, but 4 is better. 5 seems to be the most common. Anything more than 5 is just ridiculous. You're indenting way too much. So Geany set it at 4, and that's perfectly fine. And that's all we need to do to change this. So we'll just click on Apply and OK. So a couple more things to do. Let's go up to our Tools and our Plugin Manager. You remember we did some plugin stuff. We installed some plugins. So let's turn on some of these plugins. So the ones that we'll turn on are add-ons, auto close, very useful feature. It makes sure that every time you set up a brace, it sets up a closing brace. It's actually a very useful feature once you get used to it. Extra selections. One of the most common things that we want to do in program code isn't just simple copy paste. We sometimes want to copy blocks, so rectangular areas around. So the extra selection gives you a lot more control. You don't have to use the feature, but it's actually very useful to have active. And the other one is split window, especially if you want to take a current file that you're looking at. It might have 100, 200, 1,000 lines of code. You want to be able to scroll through a file in different ways. So you want to be able to split up the main window into 2 separate viewing areas. It's almost like having a microscope on different sections of your code at the same time. You'll find it useful. It'll be one of those things you find useful. And the last one, I don't really know if this is that useful, but I turn on the tree browser. You'll probably never ever use it, but having it active when you do need it, you won't have to remember that it's a plugin. So let's click on close. And for right now, we've pretty much set up everything that we need to set up. But once we did this plugin stuff, we need to close Geany and open it back up again for the plugins to be active. So there I go, I've closed Geany and I'm going to open it back up again. Now, of course, none of the plugins are shouting at you, but they're there and they'll be useful. So the first thing to do really is take a look and, how do we write our very first program? So when Geany starts up, it doesn't have any particular file open. It's got an untitled file. So let's go ahead and do a save as and give this file a name. So I'm going to save this to my documents, and I've already created in Windows a Java programming folder. So let me go over to my folders and open up that view. So document and Java programming. Now there's two already in there. So this is when I was playing around with ensuring that the Java virtual machine was working outside of this video. So what I'm going to do is delete these just to show you the creation. I should have set this up earlier, but that's what we get for free videos. So I'll go into Java programming, and of course there's nothing in there because there's nothing in there. I just deleted them. So let's call this one HelloWorld.java. Now, Geany didn't know what type of language we were going to be programming in. It could have been Java, it could have been Python, it could have been C, C++, BASIC, it could have been an HTML, a JavaScript, who knows? This is the point where we tell Geany what type of language we're going to be programming in. And it's all about this part, the extension. So Hello World is going to be the name of our Java class or our Java program. And you'll notice that the upper lowercase, capital H, capital W, that's very important for Java. So this program is getting called Hello World in exactly that way. But I'm putting a .java at the end, so Geany knows that this is a Java program. So now I can hit the save, and you'll notice that HelloWorld.java appears over here, and Hello World Java is now inside my folders. Now, of course, there's nothing in this program. We need to start writing some code. So I'm going to put in a comment. So / is a Java comment. So hello world, my very first Java program. So this is just a comment completely ignored by Java, but every time I look at the code, I will know what this program is. I don't have to look at the 5, 10, or 500 lines of code to understand what this program does. It's actually just sitting there. So then public class hello world, and you'll notice that it's hello world in the same upper lowercase as the file name. That's extremely important for Java. Java is very case sensitive, as they call that. It does seem like a limitation, but it's actually one of the main features of Java, that names of things have to follow very specific rules. It's one of those, you'll have to trust me, it'll save you a lot of grief later on. So now I've gone in, and you see that Geany has color-coded that code. It understands that the comment is a comment, so it makes it red. It understands that public class are part of the Java language, so it's made them sort of that dark black. I think it's a really dark purple. Hello World is one of my identifier names. Like, I made that name up, I created it, so it makes it blue. So the language itself isn't color-coded. Java's not a color-coded language, but Geany helps us out that way by color-coding. And you'll notice as soon as I put in that first brace, that squiggly bracket, it also put a closing one. That's part of that auto-close plugin that we activated. So Geany is able to help us out that way. So in the middle, I'm going to press Enter and go down to the next line, and you'll notice that Geany has automatically indented. My cursor is over 4 spaces. Why 4 spaces? That's what the indent level is. And those are spaces, not tabs. You can see I can space through that. So spaces are very useful. So now we're going to type in public static void main string args. This is our main method header. I'm going to press enter, and you'll notice again more color coding. So Java's it's a very complex intricate language. This color coding is very useful, very useful. So I'm going to start another brace here. Now this brace is going to indicate what code is going on inside of our main method. Well, this program is only going to have one statement. The HelloWorld program is the shortest program you can write in Java that accomplishes something, meaning that it will actually produce some output. Now in this case, it's literally only going to display Hello World to the screen. Once again, more color coding. So the Hello World is the string or the text that will show up. So Geany makes it that orange reddish color. And I put a semicolon at the end to make it to indicate that it's done. Over here on the left, you'll notice we've got classes, Hello World, and main. So what's happening is that Geany's breaking down our program. As we write more code, Geany is going to provide us more of the modules or the breakdown of our program. And the 5 and the 3 are just indicating the line numbers. So if we had a lot of modules in our program, we had hundreds of lines of code, we'd be able to jump around our program much faster by knowing where things are located. And again, that's what the line numbers are for. Very useful. So as far as this program is concerned, it's a running program. So the first thing we need to do is compile it. Let's try and translate it from a Java source code into the executable or the .class file. So if we look over here, we've still got just a hello world.java program. And we could, if we wanted to, we could hit save, but Geany automatically saves whenever we try and do a compile. And that compile is these three little colors. There's a triangle, a yellow arrow, and a red dot. And that's indicating that we're going to translate it from source code, which is like the bluish triangle. We're going to translate it to the executable or the red dot. So let's click on that button. And if all goes well, excellent. Here we go. Compilation finished successfully down at the bottom. There's no errors in our program. And if we go over here, we've got a brand new file that magically showed up, a hello world.class file. So the hello world.class file is used to execute our program. The Java file is really just what you see here. It's just a bunch of letters. It's not actually the program. The class file, on the other hand, that's the actual executable. And yeah, for those of you looking at, if you're doing it at home and you don't see the .class or the .java, you probably don't have your extensions turned on. So a quick side note here, how to turn on your file extensions. We go into our settings, we click on folders and file explorer options, click on view, and we scroll down here to where you see the word hide. So this is probably the one that's got a check mark on it to hide things. Don't hide anything. So I'll go through it slowly. If you look at my settings, maybe you can mimic them. I find the settings here very useful. So all these displays, I'll scroll down here to the hide sections and the shows. And then I'll scroll down here to the bottom part of the rest of the shows. So those are my settings. So I'll click on apply and OK. And that's where I can see the .class and the .java. Extremely useful to be able to see them there instead of having to go over here to the type and try and understand what they are. So let's get back over here to our program. So we've compiled it. We haven't run it yet. We've just compiled. How do we run our program? Well, in Geany, when we run our program, it's not going to show up down here. So this is where we usually have any indicators from Geany of how the program is working in terms of variables or performance, or if we have a compiler error, we would see it down here. But to run it, what Geany does is it actually calls the Java virtual machine, the Java runtime environment, through the java.exe program, the one we were looking at earlier, and it shows it in its own little command window. So there it is. Now, if you wanted to, you could leave this command window up on the screen, and if you wanted to look at the program itself and try and match up to what the program output would be, this is very useful. But if you just press enter, that window will then go away. And Geany is now back, and we can continue on with our program. At this point, you've got a running system. everything is is working exactly as it should. It's very well defined. You've got your Java environment installed properly. You've got the references in terms of variables. Geany is happy as well. Geany also lets us support different versions. I wanted to just show you that really quickly. If we go into our build and set build commands, you can see right now, if you compile, it runs the Java C for whatever the file name is. To execute your program, it runs Java. So it's really, Geany is just using what we did before when we installed the JDK. If we had different versions of Java, what we could do is install a brand new name. We could call it Java 11, and in here we would put in the C:\/ Java VM, or wherever the Java C.exe is for that version. But that's something for the future. For right now, we don't have to worry about it. We've told Windows where Java is, so Geany automatically knows. So for all intents and purposes, congratulations, you've done a great job. You've written your very first program, and I now end this video and wish you success in programming in Java. Bye-bye.